relied on the comfort of good food from our favorite restaurant being delivered to our place. And Noman and his team make this happen. Hi, Noman. How are you?
I'm doing great, Fazan. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me. Yeah, lovely.
Thanks for taking the time. You're actually keeping everyone full and happy during these difficult times by getting their favorite food delivered to them, aren't you? Must be a great
We're trying
feeling.
our best. We're trying our best, and we just. I think in this particular situation, as a company, when this sort of news around pandemic started to break, and things started locking down, we as a company came together, our leadership team, and everybody else that we'll be the company on the leading this whole situation, because we've been poised in a way that we can sort of facilitate people, consumers at home. We can generate a lot of revenue for the restaurants. We can do a lot of great initiatives. So, and we were really committed, and I'm really thankful to my overall team, which worked like day and night over this period, just to make sure that we're able to facilitate as many stakeholders as possible.
And that's, I'm sure it's a commendable effort, especially during these difficult times. I asked some of my team, I said, we've got Food Panda CEO coming on. Do you have any questions for him? And I swear to God, like I think the entire office stood up in arms and said, "Why is my order wrong, or why is my food late?" So I was like, "Don't you have any other questions?" They're like, "No." One person stood up and said, "My cake was broken when it was delivered." So, are there challenges in the delivery front? Is it specific to COVID? Is it general? I mean, how it must be really hard getting food delivered on time. The logistics must be a real nightmare. How do you manage that?
So, Fazan, unlike Food Panda is essentially part of a global company called Delivery Hero, and Food Panda itself as a company is around in 10, 11 different countries, and where delivery is one of our areas where we believe we are specialists in. So our average delivery time in Pakistan is around 23 minutes at this point in time. So on an
Okay,
average, we'll deliver your food right from the time you give an order to the time we deliver it is around 23 minutes. Now,
that's pretty
now
good.
the challenges around food, which is I think missing or perhaps late. Uh, Food Panda today does a very sizable volume in Pakistan.
Hmm.
And even since it's an operational business, even if you're talking about 1% of the miss, that's a very sizable number.
So
We're
how many orders a day do you deliver roughly?
Uh, our monthly volume is in multiple millions. So I cannot
Wow.
confirm to you our daily volume, but
Okay.
it's even more than multiple millions per month. So
Okay.
even if you're talking about a 1% impact, that's quite sizable. So our effort is continuously getting that lowered, but
Hmm.
I think there's a significant role which Food Panda has to play. We're looking at data. We're trying to understand what's wrong, what needs to be fixed on our part, which includes better rider training, better rider onboarding, better technology, better food boxes where food goods can be carried. But
Right.
also, what's important is, as you can understand, that the restaurant industry in Pakistan in general hasn't, we're not part of a very established economy where people or the people who are working in restaurants are very have very good skill set on handling food and
The training is
packing
a
stuff
big
and
part
so
of it
forth.
that's missing. The packing, the training, the delivery, that's a big part that's
Absolutely.
missing. So why
Yeah.
not create a Food Panda university or a Food Panda training center that focuses just on this? Because I'm presuming the logistics around food delivery is something that will see increasing demand. Whether you're filling that demand today or whether someone else is tomorrow, you would do a great service by creating employment for those who have that training. Why not start something like that? It would be
Uh,
pretty easy to
that's
start.
that's great, and I think that sits well with our one of the philosophies we have operating in Pakistan is we believe we're a good company which is trying to build a great nation, and one of the things is that we want to educate all our stakeholders. So
Hmm.
restaurants, riders, home chefs, you name it, we are launching educational programs as you've mentioned already, which where
Hmm.
people can sort of log on to our YouTube channels and view
Okay.
content. And that content is not only by foodpanda, so we also plan to get industry experts, people who are expert in packaging, expert in
Right.
growing businesses, expert in handling food, expert in building cuisines, and for rider training and for home chefs and so forth. So I think in the next 30 days you'll be seeing a lot of initiatives on these lines which food panda is launching, and it essentially in return helps us. So it's selfish on our part, because the better the better skill set people have, whether they are stakeholders, whether
Of
they
course.
work for us, the better service would be provided to the customers.
That's true. And so you've been focused on customer service and delivery. And if I go back in time, I mean, you started off in your father's living room, without any salary, any payroll, and you started with a laptop. I think you just returned from university, and I think that's when we probably first met. You did the first, sort of digital media management for. I was running Health TV at the time,
Ah, yeah, 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 yeah,
and
yeah. I
you had
remember.
started that service and you were running Food Connection Pakistan and you're doing digital media management. And I remember that was the first time we met. Yes, you've come a long way. Walk me through that journey. You've been customer focused. You've been all about getting the right experience. How have you focused on that as you went from operating out of your dad's living room to becoming a part of Food Panda?
I think Fezan, first of all, there was no journey set, like this is what I have to do. There was an inspiration that better and world class standard, something on
Right,
those lines. So when I was operating from my dad's living room, that only ambition was that I think as a country, as Pakistan, we a lot of people in Pakistan love Pakistan, right? But
right,
unfortunately, the bitter truth, which I understand day by day, is in terms of operating at world standards of different, whether it be poverty, whether it be economic growth or GDP size, we're not really doing great. And
right,
I think in my own little capacity, I just wanted to do something which can bring recognition. So, we can be proud of that. Here we're Pakistani and we can build something great. So that is
right.
where Food Connection Pakistan came in. Uh, the only goal I had, so the level
So
of
Food
naivety
Connection
at
was a
the
delivery. It was a delivery platform to begin with, or was it just a listing for
it was
food
just
vendors?
it was just a platform which used to list different restaurants on its self. It was just like a boutique magazine. So restaurants who
Okay,
would pay us 30,000 40,000 rupees an air would get their whole branded page, and restaurants who would not pay us would not get any of those beautifications but still
got
have the
it.
basic
So
information there,
very
right?
static looking listing, like a Karachi snob back in the day used to exist.
Exactly, but much more comprehensive, like 3,000 restaurants. So we
Got
had
it.
people who were going to different cities, going to restaurants, asking them, what do you have valet service and so forth, and putting that all. So what that happened is, and our core goal was at that point in time, since Karachi Snob was there, but it had like 200 restaurants, right? We
Right,
thought that food is something which is across Pakistan, and people across
right.
Pakistan should have access to that information. So we listed 3,000 restaurants, and
And
in
you went pan Pakistan with Food Connection, or is that something that happened after Food Panda came in?
no. So that was with Food Connection. Day one,
Wow.
operating out of dad's living room, big goals,
Yeah. Must be a
big
big living room, huh?
big 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 idiotic goals. We said हम लोग मुल्तान में, सक्खर में, लाड़काना में, हर जगह रेस्टोरेंट्स सिर्फ लिस्ट करते थे कि यहाँ पर ये
हाँ.
मिलता है, यहाँ पर सब्जी मिलती है. बट
तो
हाइंडसाइट
आप
में
लोग
आई
उनको
थिंक
समझाते कहते थे उन लोगों को जो सब्जी बेचने वाला मुल्तान में बैठा हुआ है वो कह रहा है यार आप यहाँ लिस्ट करके क्या करोगे उसका क्या फायदा था उसको फायदा नजर आता था वहां लिस्टिंग करके
उसको फायदा था ना हमें फायदा था, लेकिन हम लोग वो कर रहे थे. वी वर जस्ट कलेक्टिंग डेटाबेस, राइट? बिकॉज
राइट राइट
इवन इफ यू कॉल्ड पाकिस्तान फूड डायरेक्टरी एट दैट टाइम, आई थिंक 17 और
राइट
समथिंग, उनके पास भी रेस्टोरेंट्स की इंफॉर्मेशन नहीं थी. सो
सही है
सो वो जो पहला स्टेप था ना डेटाबेस बिल्ड करने का, लेकिन उससे हुआ क्या कि 1.5 2 साल बाद हमने बोला कि अरे 3,000 रेस्टोरेंट्स तो लिस्ट कर दिए, हमारी टीम गई है, फिजिकली इंफॉर्मेशन ली है, फोन पे इंफॉर्मेशन ली है, पैसा तो हम तो यहाँ से कुछ कमाते नहीं है, तो फायदा क्या हुआ?
हाँ
बट उसका
हाँ
फायदा जो था वो ये था कि we were getting 250,000 organic viewers on our platform each month. So
ओके
वो बहुत ज्यादा, and then food panda had already launched for 1.5 years और काफी ट्रैक्शन पकड़ रहा था, and then somebody knocked sense into us कि यार एफसी पाकिस्तान का जो है ना मॉडल, वो क्योंकि रेस्टोरेंट पे क्या होता था कि रेस्टोरेंट के ऊपर जब लोग डाइनिंग करने जाते थे ना, वो कभी बताते नहीं थे कि हमने एफसी पाकिस्तान पे आपकी इंफॉर्मेशन देखी है. देयर वाज नो नीड
हम्म.
टू टेल देम. सो
ठीक है.
सो रेस्टोरेंट्स हमें बोलते थे कि यार तुम लोग के साथ तो कोई वैल्यू नहीं मिलती है हमें. तो
तो
फिर
एट्रीब्यूशन नहीं मिल रही थी आपको उसकी.
बिल्कुल मोनेटाइज नहीं कर पा रहे थे ट्रैफिक. तो फिर हम लोगों ने बोला,
हम्म.
मैं बिजनेस पार्टनर होते थे मेरे साथ राय में, सो वी सेड कि यार इस बिजनेस को पिवट करना पड़ेगा, अदरवाइज दिस बिजनेस इज गोइंग डाउन हिल. So
हम्म.
then we raised capital, and one of the things which helped us to raise capital really is that 250,000 traffic, because as soon as we started changing numbers of restaurants to our own number.
हम्म.
So पहला जो हम लोगों ने ईटो के ऊपर ही एफसी पाकिस्तान पे जो टेस्ट किया था, वो मैंने अपने घर में एक हमारे घर के फोन नंबर को लगा दिया था, और तो वेबसाइट पे जो कोलाची और सज्जाद का नंबर होता था
हम्म.
उसको चेंज करके घर का नंबर दे दिया था. और वहां
हम्म.
पर हम लोगों ने एक कॉल सेंटर का एजेंट बैठाया था, तो वो
हम्म.
कॉल दे रहा था कि so in 1 week we made reservations for about 10,000 people, right? And then
Right.
when we showed that to the investors, they said we want to invest. So we were able to raise some
And
capital.
and I think this was ARPA Tech at the time, right? That
That's
raised the
correct.
capital for you. Jamal was the guy
Jamal,
at the
yeah,
time. Jamal's also a friend of mine. We met through EO. And I remember this was an investment he was very excited about. I think you rebranded yourself as Etoe at the time.
that's correct. We rebranded ourselves to Eat-O-A, or because FC Pakistan में problem ये हो रही थी that the name was too long. Food
Hmm.
Connection Pakistan. So people used to call us FC.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then we said, so we learned few things, and FC Pakistan logo had like 8 colors with the ice cream bowl
Right.
and stuff like that. So then we looked at all the top companies in the world, and we realized that they have three colors. They're either blue, black, or red.
Hmm.
So we didn't know why they're blue, black, or red, but we thought that there's some science to it, right? So we
Hmm.
said, let's go with red because food red.
Right.
And then we got a crispier name which was Eat Away, so people
Hmm.
could call it like
Hmm.
instantly.
Much more
उसके
memorable
बाद
also.
yeah, a much more memorable, a sort of a little blunt as well. So that sort of helped us to sort of get real traction. And उसके बाद जितने भी हमारे पेजेस थे उनके ऊपर हम लोगों ने सिंपली रेस्टोरेंट्स के नंबर्स हटा के हम लोगों ने वहां पर ऑर्डरिंग की फैसिलिटी डाल दी कि भाई जो भी ट्रैफिक आ रही है आप कुछ ना
Hmm.
कुछ तो ऑर्डर करो. वी स्टार्टेड
Hmm.
साइनिंग अप contracts, and the restaurants which were reluctant to pay us 40,000 rupees an year were now
Hmm.
paying us 400,000 rupees a month. क्योंकि they
Hmm.
were like यार इतने orders आते हैं इतनी जबरदस्त
Hmm.
चीजें हैं. And I was like, we were like okay, it was
तो
same
फिर
platform but we
तो फिर
made it.
इतना अगर अच्छा चल रहा था, इन्वेस्टमेंट भी मिल गया, जमाल वाज रनिंग अ ग्रेट कंपनी एट द टाइम, आर प्रोटेक्ट, एंड पैसे भी आ गए, ऑर्डर्स भी आ रहे हैं, व्हाई डिड यू कंसिडर the opportunity to sell to a brand that had just launched in Southeast Asia? I believe it had launched in Singapore and those markets, अपना Malaysia वगैरह में, and it was looking to
Hmm.
enter Pakistan. So why would you take a business you have just finally taken off and say कि यार मैं बेच रहा हूँ इसको?
So, Feza, uska at this point in time, this is back in 2011. The time when we raised that initial set of money from Arpatech, I personally didn't know that you can raise money, and this is how I had no idea that you can actually go to someone and say, "Give me money." That was the level of naivety we had. Uh, I think 1.5 year running the business along with Arpatech and our other board members, we were presented with a really good offer overall,
Right.
financial offer. Although at this point in time, I strongly believe that we should have stayed there really strongly, invested a lot more money into the business, and sort of grew it in Pakistan.
Right.
But then at that point in time, the offer looked very lucrative. It wasn't a one-person decision. Although initial plan was to take that idea into multiple markets, but then
Mm-hmm.
as a company, as a board, we decided to let's grab this opportunity. Uh, and
And
then
so how has that been? I mean, matlab, you went from starting a business in your dad's living room, running it yourself, खुद से सारा data वगैरह लिया, then you basically brought on an investor, and then you sold out to a growing platform that then eventually sold out again. So now you are one part of a bigger system. How has that changed the nature of work for you and the nature
So,
of ownership?
so basically, Food Panda in 2016 as well, there was one transition. So Eatoy was acquired in 2015 by Food Panda. In 2016, the global management of Food Panda was changed to Delivery Hero. Delivery Hero
Right,
is valued at about over 20 billion, operates in about 50 different countries. But so that's the size of the company. But when I joined the Food Panda group, that the thing which was the best was, at that point in time our global CEO was Ralph Wenzel. uh, and the beauty was that the level of freedom you had to run the business in Pakistan, it was as if you owned the business 100%.
right.
I think the management there believed in the local teams. They gave us a lot of freedom, and they also understood that if you've gotten entrepreneurs on board, there's no point sort of controlling them. And
Right.
even after that, even today, I think with us operating under Food Panda regionally and Delivery Hero globally, $20 billion company, the level of trust and the level of the empowerment is phenomenal. It's just, there's not like, all the decisions reside with the local companies. And I think that is, obviously there's a lot of information sharing and there's a lot of back and forth, but this freedom enables Delivery Hero to just become a global leader or a market leader in any of the markets we operate in. So otherwise, if it was operating like a corporate, I would have left a long time back,
So
because
tell me
that would
this.
have.
I mean, you sold out to a company. You're saying it doesn't operate like a corporate, right? But and so I spent some time in corporate America, and what I found with startups is it's all about the founder and the founding team and their trajectory and their direction. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Food Panda's global founding team doesn't exist today. Like none of the global founders that were there at the start of Food Panda are there today. It's all Delivery Hero. Is that correct?
Yeah, but with Delivery
So how
Hero,
does that
Faizan,
how does that
yeah,
impact? I mean, the person, because you sold to a different set of people. Now a different set of people own it. The
yeah,
mindset, the value system. I mean, doesn't that really make it feel like a corporate environment? Because it sounds like it's corporate because वो जो original founders चले गए, उनकी energy गई, अब ये बड़ी company आ गई अब.
yeah. So Faizan, our global CEO, Nicholas, is actually 38 years old, and he's a thoroughbred entrepreneur himself. So he has built companies, sold companies, build. He's 38 years old and running this $20 billion sort of empire.
Right.
So he is the one who sort of truly believes empowering local teams. He
Okay.
sees the business growing in no other way. For example, like Uber, who would like to keep everything regionally and then control. And
Right.
that is one of the reasons Food Panda, for example, in this COVID situation, we were extremely agile. Whether it would be launching 100,000 home chefs in Pakistan, an initiative which we launched, which is
Right.
only happening in Pakistan market, not in any of the Delivery Hero markets. It's a
Right.
100% local initiative. Whether it was launching groceries in 48 hours on the platform, whether it was having hundreds of meetings with different government stakeholders just to explain them our narrative and how we can make this environment more safer. So this type of agility you can only get when there's phenomenal amount of freedom given to you. And I think not only our CEO but the management team which we have regionally, which we have in Delivery Hero, has a very entrepreneurial mindset overall. We're a very young company at heart in terms of how we move and how agile we are.
And I think the agility speaks to the fact that you were able to launch delivery of groceries and this focus on home chefs. I mean, during lockdown, काम वाम बंद हुए हुए लोगों के, मतलब it's been difficult for a lot of people. ये जो home chefs का आपने culture start किया है, tell me what was the mindset behind it? How did that come about? मतलब you've really given employment to people who might have not been employed previously or lost employment during COVID. How
Bilkul.
did that come about and how did the company support that?
So, Faizan, as you know, that same goal which we had when we were running Food Connection Pakistan, the same goals we have now. So it's to create more employment in the country, and generate as many lives as possible, one way or another. Uh, and Home Chef Pakistan, ke andar, unlike other developed countries, if you compare it to Thailand, uh, talking about Bangkok in particular, with a population of about 7 and 8 million people, has about 100,000 restaurants, right?
Right.
7 to 8 million people, which is 4 times lesser than Karachi. But Karachi overall has maybe 6,000 restaurants. And if you look at Pakistan, if you start going to second and third tier cities, there may be 50 restaurants or 60 restaurants. So there's not enough, and our business is nothing if you don't have restaurant supply. Otherwise, people won't be able. So a journal pivot for us as a business, if we wanted to capture this 200 million market in Pakistan, was to create inventory one way or another, right?
Right.
And then we started looking at home chefs because it was already very popular in Pakistan. We said,
Right.
let's try this out. It started out in October. In Jan this year, we had about 250 home chefs, working on our platform, and our revenue. And then when this COVID breakdown, we as a company came together. We said, let's try to do our max to generate maximum employment, because I can tell you today, I think in June we grew from 250 home chefs to about 3,000 home chefs, right? Which is
Wow.
a 10x growth in inventory. And the orders grew for home chefs about 12x as well. But there are a lot of home chefs who come to us and tell us that this is the only source of income
Right.
for our household today, right?
Right.
Some of the people are fulfilling their university fees. People are looking after their house. So as a
Yep.
company, that's the greatest reward which you can get essentially.
So
And
it gives you
we
your CSR play at the same time as creating inventory. I mean, that's a double win for you.
it's great. I think it's multiple fold. It creates strategic value for us to increase
Right.
inventory. It For the people, for the customers, it's very affordable food because it's
Right.
much less cheaper than the restaurant food. The quality is great, by the way. And also for people, it makes them highlight their talent as well. There's so many. So one of the things which we sort of stumbled upon when we sort of started scaling home chefs is there people who make boutique food. Like
Right.
some of the best rated restaurants on foodpanda today are home chefs, because these were the people who were locked inside their home making their
Yep.
art, in terms of food. But now
Right.
they're like, and now people are praising them, and they have this personal. I think that is great. We're also able to generate economic income, women empowerment. There's so many angles to it. I think
So
it's
what's your
just.
one favorite boutique home chef you've discovered that you've been ordering over the last couple of months? The one that's like, I have to order this every day.
Yeah, to be very honest, I think 50% of my outside ordering is from home chefs now.
Okay.
So in my
And
area, I would
any one
order
specific that stands out for you?
shawarma house.
Shawarma
Shawarma
house.
shawarma house is near my house, and they use all sort of chicken, fries, other vegetables. It's one of the most unique shawarmas you'll have in Karachi, right?
Right.
There's a bun kebab place I order from, which is also a home chef. There's a place which serves real halim. A lot of
Right.
different options, great ones.
Interesting. So tell me this. You talked about inventory, which is a very valid point. You've got 100,000 restaurants in Singapore serving an audience of about 8, 9 million people. Only 6,000 in Karachi, right? 6,000
Yeah,
in
that's
Karachi.
correct.
What do you think should be the right inventory for restaurants or food service providers in a city like Karachi that does not have the GDP per capita for Singapore, right? So
Hmm,
Singapore is,
hmm,
a lot more, and the affordability level is much higher, but our population is about, let's say, 30 million. So
yeah.
what's the right sweet spot for inventory you think in Karachi?
Yeah, Karachi mein, I think with this population, even I think at least 50,000 restaurants minimum.
Just in Karachi.
Just in Karachi, at
And
least
that puts Pakistan at what?
in terms of
Inventory for restaurants. आपने बोला कि पाकिस्तान में कुछ cities में
at
tier
the
2 cities
most
में
potentially
yeah.
the most bottom of the bottom layers.
Hmm.
So for example, a market like Singapore. So previously, I was talking about Bangkok, where you have about 100,000 restaurants on 8 million people, because they get a lot of tourists as well.
Right.
Singapore has about 25,000 restaurants over 5 million people.
Okay, I
Uh,
got that confused. So Bangkok has 100,000. There's a lot of tourism, 8 to 9 million people. Singapore has 25,000. So you think Karachi would be somewhere in between? We don't have that kind of tourism, but we definitely have more people than Singapore.
Yeah, no, but right now in Karachi, I think we have 7, 8,000 restaurants. The penetration is really low. We should ideally have 50,000 restaurants in Karachi, and if we really start to get a lot of tourism, maybe 200,000 restaurants we should have in Karachi.
So 50,000 restaurants. So you're telling young entrepreneurs out there कि भाई जाके restaurant खोलो अभी भी supply कम है. And if your food is good, you will succeed.
Absolutely, and the best way to do that is, plug into our ecosystem with a home chef. There's no major
Right.
investment. You try different things. If it gets a lot of traction, you can build your own restaurant. Many home chefs are doing that.
So it's completely
Many like
free.
sorry.
It's completely free. Like you plug into foodpanda and
Yeah,
start sending food.
yeah, yeah. So, for example, a home chef in Faisalabad, we have one of the successful stories. They do about 2,000 orders a month, right? Which is making about 7, 800,000 in revenues, maybe 200,000 rupees in profit. So there are
Wow.
many stories you can plug in. It just needs commitment, like running your own business.
So what's the average order size like city wise? How do you see a variance? Like what's the average order in Karachi versus let's say Faisalabad versus let's say Lahore,
Okay, so I think cities like Faisalabad, Multan, Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad we'll consider in tier one. I
tier
think,
one?
yeah, the average basket size here would be somewhere around 500, 600 rupees.
Okay.
But if we start going to tier two cities like Gujarat or
Bahawalpur.
Bahawalpur, so that drops quite significantly. Maybe it gets to 50% of that.
Okay. I would have thought that they maybe do bigger ordering for families at the same time. They might have actually been like a little bit higher, but you're saying that the individual ordering drops half in size.
Yeah, and I think Faizan, I think our lives in these metro cities are much more complexer, right?
Right.
Ordering food and on the go, and
Yep.
in smaller cities it's much more relaxed. People sitting at home, or maybe in a marketplace where there's not much traffic happening, people enjoying their own individual meals. So
Right.
and it's and we thrive on those building that capability to serve an individual meal to a customer,
Right.
because that we can sort of tap the market and a much broader perspective.
Okay. Interesting. So now I'm just going to switch gears a little bit. You're basically talking about building out this ecosystem, entrepreneurs, food chefs. I think you've got what, 500 employees working out of 30 cities in Pakistan right now?
Somewhere around 700 at the moment.
700 employees. So you're growing your employee footprint and base. What is it that you look for specifically, that one thing you look for when you're hiring someone to join your team, be it a rider or be it someone part of your senior staff? There's that one thing that we all look for, right? What is that one thing that you look for?
Hmm. आई थिंक इंटेलिजेंस, बिकॉज फिजन हम लोग के अभी जो प्रॉब्लम हो रही थी ना फूड पैंडा में प्रीवियसली, वो ये है कि पाकिस्तान इज नॉट अ प्लग एंड प्ले मार्केट. लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल यू लॉन्च अ सिटी, वहां पर रेस्टोरेंट्स भी रजिस्टर हुए हैं, वहां का स्टाफ भी ट्रेन हुआ हुआ है, उनको डिवाइस भी यूज करनी आती है. तो आप वहां पर जाके बोलोगे मैं ये काम करता हूँ तो सारा कुछ स्मूथ चलेगा. हम लोग गुजरात में लॉन्च करने गए तो वहां पर टैबलेट हमने लॉन्च की, तो वहां तो लोग अपना फोन दिखा रहे हैं कि हम लोग नाम किसी का 1122 करके सेव करते हैं. So if you find 1122 on somebody's phone, it means
हाँ.
this is the number from Nauman, right? So
हाँ.
उन्होंने बोला कि तो ये तो हम लोग टैबलेट यूज ही नहीं करते. तो अब चीज क्या थी कि once you don't have a lot of intelligent people in the organization, you're not able to solve complex problems. And
Hmm.
at the pace we are growing, we need really intelligent people across the company, and we try our best to get the best talent available in Pakistan
So
on
how
board
do
our
you
platform.
measure? So you talk about intelligence. How do you measure that intelligence? Is there a test? Is there a metric? Is there, how do you gauge that?
Okay, so I think particular ways to look at it. First of all, we look at your academics, where you studied from. What's the and what's the caliber of that particular institute, right? Can you get
Right.
there if you don't have strong analytical skills? Uh, Number one, we also look at your previous assignments where you've worked before, and whether those assignments involved a lot of intelligence to solve problems, or was it something which was straightforward. We also have like tests to sort of which we have to clear case study test for senior positions, and then we have like 4 or 5 different interviews to gauge people to think on their feet, like quick answers that we need, that people have the capability to solve complex problems on the go as well, or in a faster.
And the riders also go through a similar testing process.
So riders are different. What we do with riders is, at this point in time, we have in excess of 40,000 riders in Pakistan today, right?
Okay.
And on a good day, we would hire 1,000 riders. So riders ka, what we do is we have basic screening and also police screening, just to make sure that we don't get anybody with a criminal record on board, just to make things very secure for all our customers. Then we have a very high churn iteration in rider. So you'll get
Right.
on the job. We have 10 different KPIs on based upon which we will see your performance. Whether you're taking orders on time, whether you're courteous to the customers, whether after picking up food you're not smoking a cigarette outside, and so forth. So
Right.
10 different. And if we see that the riders, and we have a lot of riders who are not non-compliant, right? We simply don't stop giving shifts to them and replace them with better quality of riders.
So now we talk about riders. You're ensuring that there's a high quality rider to manage the attrition, the quality of delivery, and sort of everything. Tell me this. We've got a common friend who's running a ride business called Bikea. Would that business be able to sort of take away from you, because their focus, their entire business is built around riders nationwide, right? I mean, that's what their
Mm-hmm.
business is. So
Mm-hmm.
would they ever be able to, let's say, one day decide, what, I'm going to get into food delivery business. I've already got the rider network. How would you tackle such competition if it enters in the market? Kareem is already entering the food delivery space. So you're seeing a lot of these rider driven plays coming in. How are you holding on to your competitive advantage that you started with in 2011?
Yeah. So I think it's a very good question. Even I think in cities or countries where the rider supply is very limited, we don't see this problem happening, because I think in those cities what happens is the amount of money you pay to the rider is so attractive that they eventually start leaving other jobs and start thinking of becoming a rider. In Pakistan, fortunately, we do not have any problem. One thing which we have is a lot of young people across the country who are looking for jobs.
Right.
And I think if Bikea, Kareem, Uber, Foodpanda, and 20 more companies operate in full swing, even then we would not be able to fulfill the potential supply which we have in the country. Despite of that, I think some of the things which we use to keep our money, which we give to the rider low, is that our business operates on a very high utilization rate. So what it means is
Okay.
that we will give so many rights to the rider, and they can make much more money in 1 hour as opposed to our competition, right? So that is
Okay.
how we make sure. Then we have like 20 different partnerships which are fuel, educate their children, their insurance, getting them food at a discounted rates, and so many other things, just to make sure that part of that part of is there to build a competitive advantage and the
Right.
overall environment and so forth. So these are some of the initiatives which we do, just to make sure that we have a team stays with us for a longer period.
Okay, interesting. So you've managed to retain, and what you're saying is that the pie and the market size is big enough for everyone to take a pie slice of that and still have enough to go around, right? And I think that's a good situation to be in, because then you're not really looking at competition as someone who will eat your share, but as
Mm.
some, competition is helping you grow, this particular market and provide employment to the masses of Pakistan. And I think that's a very positive way to look at things. It's difficult to be positive though all the time. I'm sure that you must have faced like challenges along the way as you were growing Food Panda. What do you think was that one really big challenge that stood out, and you almost were like, "Yaar, ye nahi ho raha mujhse, main ab nahi kar sakta," and that challenge just completely devoured you. What was that, and how did you get through it?
I think one of the biggest challenge I particularly faced is uh, when Food Panda was acquired by Delivery Hero, and for some period we had an interim management looking after the situation, and we had a tech change in Pakistan, which was overnight, not discussed with the local team, and just flipped. And all of a sudden, I saw this, like, hundreds of people personally reaching out to me, abusing me. I
Mm-hmm.
think people in Pakistan generally tend to get flared up really quickly, and people are like, we cannot order, and I'm like, it had nothing to do with us, and it was just chaos. But
Mm-hmm.
and at that time I was like, man, this, because eatway, whatever it was a company where we used to give our best to ensure customer experience, and when all of that is changed overnight,
Right.
onto a platform which is not consumer friendly, you feel a lot of pain. Our orders dropped by almost 50% or more overnight, and we were like, this is bad. But I think I find myself as a person, and I'm happy for it, is when things go really wrong is when I get the most amount of energy. So at
Mm-hmm.
that point in time, I might have thought that this is not good. But then the alternate thought was that if I walk away from this now, right?
Mm-hmm.
How who will bring this back, right? So it's not the
Mm-hmm.
right time to walk away, and it's time to build this thing. And then is the time you walk away. And by the time you end up finishing building it, you're like,
Mm-hmm.
you have this another great opportunity to now take things to a different level. So
Mm-hmm.
so yeah.
That sounds good. I mean, you turned around an opportunity, you powered through a difficult time, especially when people are, knocking on you for poor service and poor quality, and you've built the business around quality and service. I'm sure it can be difficult. But as you see, the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years, I mean, how is your business going to evolve? Are you focused on the inventory side of things where you're going to help take, let's say, 6,000 restaurants to maybe 50,000 and focus on the home chefs component? Are you going to add more services like groceries and delivery, or are you going to take this in towards like a Baikia model or a Kareem model where they've started to deliver anything under the sun? I mean, how are you seeing your business evolve over the next few years?
So our core business is restaurants, like delivering food to customers, and so that's our core business, and we're going to stick by that. I think restaurants in Pakistan are growing now. Restaurants in
Mhm.
Pakistan are growing now, and we see that the evolution, and more restaurant groups actually contacting us on how to grow their footprint. Um, so I think that, but that is not something which we can influence a lot. Whatever is present in the market, we'll try to get that on board. Home chefs, we are going to get about 10 to 15,000 home chefs on board by the end of this year. I think maybe next year, 2021 December, we're like looking at 100,000 home chefs active on our platform, right? So
Right.
growing the overall restaurant and home chef inventory to almost 150,000 restaurants. Let's see how that plan goes. So that's our core business. And I think that something which is consumed 3 times a day, 30 days a month, I think it's a very high frequency need, and that can be fulfilled with the right model. So we see phenomenal 200 million multiplied by 3 gives you 600 million meals a month, which is quite interesting. Yeah, 600 meals a million meals a day, quite interesting
Right.
prospect to sort of. But in addition to that, we are looking at other avenues. Unlike other companies which would have a super app plan in mind and launch 6 different verticals, our
Correct.
Delivery Hero overall philosophy is to add one vertical at a time, which really complements the existing vertical. So,
Okay.
shops is something which goes in sort of complementary to our food business. So, over the period, we might be adding more verticals, but they would be only added if they already add value to what we do, not
So your
otherwise.
existing vertical being food focused, so as long as it's related to food, food delivery, or something similar, that's where you will start adding the components of vertical.
That's correct. That's
So
correct.
you're not thinking super app like everyone seems to be at this point.
No, I think as a group we understand that a lot of components in a super app are not something which create a lot of value, and we want to avoid that for now.
If you had a chance to sell to a super app, would you sell to a super app?
Uh, yeah, if the price is right, why not? So I think Delivery Hero is a company which our global CEO is extremely good at doing mergers and acquisition.
Right,
But I think one of the beautiful things about Delivery Hero is they create real value. So people
right,
who order from us get a good experience. Riders who work with us get good value. But so in Pakistan as well, their core focus is to build a great business where a lot of stakeholders can be beneficial and eventually make real value for the people who hold our stocks, have
right.
invested in Delivery Hero. But obviously, if there's great investment opportunities which sort of fuel in this direction of further growing this business or mission, I think they'll be most open to it, definitely.
Interesting. So you have to be very opportunistic as an entrepreneur, is what it sounds like. See where the opportunities are and go towards them. I mean, look, there's a lot of people in Pakistan, a lot of young graduates who are getting out into the market, and the market's not looking the best at this point in time. And let's say someone does not have a culinary skill, or they're not super equipped to do baking or cooking. I mean, you've been through the entrepreneur journey. You've had that level of success, started from nothing, grew it up, and then sold out. Is there a takeaway you would give a budding entrepreneur कि यार ये बस करते रहो and everything will be fine? What's that one thing कि उनको करना चाहिए?
Yeah, Fizan, I think first of all, in terms of being opportunistic, I think uh, I think rather than looking at opportunities out there, I think a person should look at what he's good at and what
Right.
he really loves. अगर आज मैं mechanic होता, so I think I would have been a decent mechanic. I would have loved what I was doing. If I was a cleaner and I used to clean up garbage anywhere in the streets, I would have been a decent cleaner, right? I think what's more important is I see people looking for different opportunities, which is good. I think people should also look at what they're really good at and what they love doing and just pursue that. And I think they'll be surprised at what they can achieve. Number two, as an entrepreneur, my journey, I think one of them is foolishness, naivety, stupidity, but passionate about what you do. I i think one of the challenges which I come across in Pakistan is there's a lot of talk कि ये चीज है ये हूँ फलाना ये नहीं so much talk. You need action. you know
Mm-hmm.
fail karo, action karo, fail karo, action karo, and then you'll eventually get somewhere. These young entrepreneurs or people, they need to pursue something. You cannot do something unless and until you're just sitting at home and you're just talking and being a critique of everything else which is happening around Pakistan. That's not going to do any better for you or the country.
प्रॉब्लम है ना उसमें प्रॉब्लम ये है कि यहाँ पे कल्चरल माइंडसेट है कि यार फेल करेंगे तो लोग क्या कहेंगे भाई मतलब मेरा चला नहीं बिजनेस तो लोग क्या कहेंगे यहाँ पे जो LKK जो है ना लोग क्या कहेंगे यहाँ पे आई थिंक आके काफी जो यंग एंटरप्रेन्योर्स हैं फंसते हैं अपनी फैमिलीज में कैसे समझाएंगे फैमिली क्या कहेगी अम्मा क्या कहेंगी दैट हाउ डू यू गेट ओवर दैट स्टिग्मा यार
So two portions. Vedant, first cheese ये है कि an example which I give very commonly. Let's imagine you're boiling an egg and you're supposed to boil a full boiled egg and you're boiling it for the first time. Can you do it for the first time?
so you'll either overboil it or underboil it
You'll screw up, right? But
absolutely
you don't give a toss about it, and neither would I, and neither would anybody else, right? And
right
it's just boiling an egg, right? You need a lot of practice to get that right. We would
right
agree. Now, running an entrepreneurial business, which has marketing, which has sales, which is account management, which is administration, finance, we both can agree that it's much more complicated than boiling an egg. How can
sure
you do it for the first time and become successful? That's
right
that's that's crazy.
good
You
example
can, yeah, right. You will always fail. If you are successful the first time, you are blessed. There's no other
mm,
reason. You are supposed to fail 10 times, and then because those 10 times you're failing, you're actually learning, right?
right
So and अंडे पे तो कोई नहीं बोलता, यहाँ पर तो बहुत लोग बोलते हैं. दूसरी फिजान समथिंग विच दूसरी चीज, एक जो रिलीजन से भी हमारी रिलेटेड है ना, एंड दिस इज समथिंग विच which I want to tell you. There's only one
Mm.
truth about this life. There's only one
Mm-hmm.
truth, and then everything else is false. And that truth about life is you and I will die.
Mm.
There's nothing. So what will happen to you tomorrow or next 1 hour? Maybe you get $10 million to, or something phenomenally great happening in your life, or maybe something miserable, and you don't know. I don't know, but there's one
Mm-hmm.
thing for certain: is me and you will die.
True. Absolutely true.
Once you truly accept death, truly accept it, that yes, I will die, then you become fearless. And once you become
Mm.
fearless, you go and don't give a toss of what other people think about you. Then you go and
Mm.
pursue. So yeah, I think that is addressing to your question on how do you overpass that fear of what people think, and what there's only one truth about this life. Everything else is secondary, and once you accept that truth wholeheartedly, you don't fear about anything else.
No, that's a very good takeaway. I think that for all young budding entrepreneurs, even for the guys who are a little bit more seasoned, maybe looking to exit their corporate lives, work lives, and start a business, failure is part and parcel of being an entrepreneur or starting a business. You will fail. You will probably fail more than twice, not even once. Failing allows you to learn. It's like riding a bicycle or boiling an egg. You will practice, and practice will teach you the shortcuts, the tips and tricks to become better, more efficient, faster, more dynamic, and so on. You can't be scared of that. And I think that what I see is, I find that's the biggest issue. Everyone is scared कि यार ये एक impression, society, ego, लोगों का क्या कहना, and I think we need to put all of that aside. Otherwise आगे हम बढ़ नहीं सकते. Noman, this has been great. It was a good session. Lots of fantastic feedback. Loved hearing about your business and your journey. Yeah, I wish you all the success. I think this Home Chefs initiative is a fantastic initiative. And now that I know that there is a deficit of about 44,000 restaurants in Karachi, I will now go and work on a business plan for a restaurant chain.
I'm sure we're looking for, we're ready for you. Whenever you open up, just let me know
I'm a
and we'll.
terrible cook. I can bake a little bit with my kids. I bake, but I'm a terrible cook. But let's see. Maybe we
You do a
explore this
couple of
option.
times, then you'll become great. I'm telling you this.
It's like boiling the egg.
It's like boiling the egg.
Great. Thanks a lot, Naman. Thanks for taking the time and joining us. And please like and subscribe at the bottom below. And thank you for tuning in, everyone. Okay. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.